Transition planning. In looking to the future of the lives of students with special needs, it is the responsibility of the teacher and administration to provide the student with a smooth transition between schools and even into the workforce. Transition plannings are extremely important in the educational system because it helps the students make the big jump from either elementary school to high school or from high school to the workforce. Transition plans often reflect the student's needs and goals and include specific goals for the student's transition to post-secondary activities. The goals must be realistic and must reflect the strengths, needs, and interests of the student. They also must require actions for now and in the future to achieve the stated goals. The actions identified must build on the student's strengths, needs, and interests. The person or agency, the student, parents, educators, providers of specialized support and services, community agencies, are responsible for or involved in completing or providing assistance in the completion of each of the identified actions. And lastly, timelines for implementations of each of the identified actions. All of these elements are crucial aspects of a transition plan in allowing the student to become most successful as they transition within different parts of their lives within the educational system. What is an IEP, you might ask? An IEP stands for the Individual Education Plan. It is developed with input from parents and the student if he or she is 16 years or older. It must be made within 30 days of the placement of a student within the educational system for their special needs requirements. And also, it can be created for students who may have not been identified as exceptional by the IPRC. The IPRC is the Identification, Placement, and Review Committee, which sole responsibility is to identify students with special needs and provide them with appropriate placements within the educational system. This study demonstrates the wide variety and statistical differences amongst students with disabilities in proportion to their provinces across Canada. 44% of all Canadian children are reporting disabilities lived in Ontario. 14% of children with disabilities lived in British Columbia and Quebec. 13% of children in Alberta also live with disabilities. And approximately 2.3% of Canadian children had reported mild or moderate disabilities. In looking to the differences of disabilities in provinces, one must understand the use of special education across the provinces varies considerably. Nova Scotia and Alberta are of the highest percentages of children with moderate or mild disabilities. Ontario is the highest for children with severe disabilities, and across Canada there is a huge variation in the provinces with the use of special education classes. In Prince Edward Island specifically, 73% of students with disabilities are placed within the regular classroom. The percentage of students in regular classes in other provinces was close to the national average of 59%. And in all provinces, most of the children with reported disabilities who were not in regular classes attend some sort of special education classes or attended a special education school.
The use of special education classes varied considerably by province. Looking at the chart below, it shows the proportion of 5 to 14-year-old students with disabilities who were in regular classrooms. That is, not in special education classes or schools. The highest of these provinces was Prince Edward Island with 73%, New Brunswick with 72%, and Nova Scotia with 67% of children in regular classrooms, compared to the lowest of Quebec with 48% and British Columbia with 51%. The percentage of students in regular classes in other provinces was close to the national average of 59%. In 2001, of the 155,000 Canadian children with disabilities, 38% were receiving special education services. About one-third of all parents of children with disabilities reported experiencing difficulty accessing special education services. Parents in Ontario were the most likely to report experiencing these difficulties. Parents responding to PALS were asked to offer one or more reasons why they were experiencing difficulties in accessing special education. In each province, an insufficient level of staffing or services was the most commonly reported reason for experiencing such difficulties. This was nationally the level of 75%. Other main reasons for parents reporting difficulties include 47% reporting difficulties related to obtaining an assessment, 44% reported that they had communication problems with their child's school, and 39% indicated that they could not access special education services because these services were not available locally. The Program for International Student Assessment offers insights into how 15-year-olds with disabilities are faring academically relative to their non-disabled counterparts. Through tests administered in May 2000, PISA assessed the skills of 15-year-olds in 3 domains: reading, mathematics, and science. On the reading test, students with reported physical disabilities scored only slightly lower than students without disabilities. However, there was a substantial gap in performance between students with reported cognitive emotional disabilities and those with no disabilities. The average reading score for students with cognitive emotional disabilities was 430, while the national average was 530. This literacy gap between disabled and non-disabled students varied considerably by province. Looking at the chart beside, it shows the average reading scores by province for 15-year-old students with no disabilities, with physical disabilities, and with cognitive emotional disabilities. Across the provinces, while the average scores of those with physical disabilities was lower than for those without disabilities, the difference was not statistically significant in any province, with the exception for Newfoundland and Labrador. On the other hand, across all provinces, students with cognitive disabilities score significantly lower than those without disabilities. The difference was most pronounced in Newfoundland, Labrador, Ontario, and Alberta. Discussion question number 1. Do you think that students with disabilities should be included in the classroom or brought out for their own specialized class?
Children with special needs should be integrated into the classroom because it not only helps them excel, but it helps students around them.
I definitely think that students with special needs should be integrated into the classroom, and I'm speaking from personal experience. I taught many grade levels. Sometimes I had combined grades, and I've had the experience over and over again of having special needs students integrated. And it always ended up being a very challenging experience at times, but a really rewarding experience, not only for the student that was integrated, but mostly for all the other students in learning how to accept, learn about different learning disabilities or special needs. Now, there is one caveat that I have to insert here, and that it's great to have special needs students integrated, but we need as teachers to have support. So I'm fully supportive of this idea, but give me some support. So if I'm not sure about something, I'm not sure about a strategy or how to help best help the student, then I want to have a resource person or someone I can go to that's going to help me answer my questions and problem solve. So I'm all for it, but give me some support.
Discussion question number 2. Why do you think provinces such as PEI and New Brunswick have such a higher rate in students with special needs?
I have no idea why it would be different out there. It might have something to do with resources, or might be something about the area.
I think it's because there's a lower population, so there would be a higher percentage of them just because of the lower population.
And discussion question number 3. It is said that if students have a strong start in their education, that they will be more successful. With the government implementing the new all-day, everyday kindergarten, do you think there will be a difference in the number of students with disabilities in the future?
Identified in kindergarten will give them a strong start, and that way the teacher can assess them earlier. And it will probably decrease the amount of special needs in the future because they'll have to be assessed a little bit earlier and they'll have to better.
In conclusion, it is evident that work is being done in the inclusion with students with special needs. There is still much debate on how they should be incorporated in the education system across Canada. Also, teachers play an active role in shaping the students' lives and providing them with a better future.